What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Matt and Max podcast. You probably sat there wondering, where's Matt today? If I thought correctly, I'm going to have the same overlay. I'm going to be there, obviously, in the screen because I'm here. But Matt's not going to be there. And I thought, you know what, I could just make it so it's the full face cam for me, but I want Matt to know that he's in our thoughts. He's in our thoughts and prayers. He can't make it this week, guys. Not any fault of his own. In fact, it's both our faults. We're normally meant to record these every Wednesday, but then obviously things come up. He's a very busy guy, and we just couldn't quite agree on a date. So it was either we don't upload this week or I do a solo podcast. I guess the other option was I get a guest on, which now that I've sat here thinking about it, could have done that, but I'm quite happy to sit here and do a solo podcast. Haven't done one of these in quite a while. And you guys are going to have to forgive me. I'm not going to look into the camera too much because I've got like notes here, etc. I'm looking at, you know, the timer for the webcam, making sure everything's, you know, in order. So you guys are going to have to forgive me for that. But yeah, I'm doing a solo podcast. Haven't done one of these in a while. For those of you who used to listen to it, and this is like 2% of you, if that, probably honestly like 5 of you. For those of you who did used to listen to my old podcast back in the day, I think like 1 or 2 years ago, I used to do solo podcasts. That was the idea of the podcast. It was always a solo podcast, and then every now and then I'd get a guest on. But the first couple times, I did about 15 episodes in total, and the first couple times, it was all solo podcasts, and I used to really enjoy doing it. I used to really be comfortable doing it as well. I'm comfortable doing it now, but I haven't done it in such a long time, so it does feel weird for me. But back in the day, man, I used to absolutely love this shit. And I think if I did it more often now, I would love it again. But I've got Matt to do a podcast with now, which is just, it's a lot better to do a podcast with somebody. Because obviously when you're struggling to think of things to talk about, then he can sort of come in and, you know, talk about stuff and vice versa. We can bounce off each other. We always have a laugh together, me and Matt. And Matt's like one of those friends that I could have a really good, sit down and have a really good conversation with. I have a few really good friends, but there's 1 or 2 that you could really like talk for just hours, and it feels so natural. So that's why me and Matt doing a podcast together just seemed like such a great idea, and we have been really enjoying it. And next week you guys are going to see him. He's going to be back on, and I'm sure in the future there's going to be a week where I can't make it and Matt will do a solo podcast. I'm sure that's going to happen. I don't know how he's going to handle it because it's not easy. It's unless you have practice, it's not easy. And I feel like I'm honestly just going off the back of the practice I had back in the day, because if I was doing this for the first time ever, I would have took like 20 attempts. I've already taken 3 attempts to start this one, because you can really just get caught up in your brain, and then you forget that you don't have someone else there to talk when your head's all over the shop. So you've got to stay on the ball, and it's not easy. I feel like it'd be easier if I went live and did it, because then I've got no excuse. I could just sit here and talk. But yeah, man, I haven't done this in quite a while, and I'm not the same person that I was back in the day either, which is actually kind of how I want to start this podcast. I was looking back at some old videos back in the day. I was looking back let me reword that. The other day, I was looking back at some old videos from back in the day. That's what I was trying to say. I was looking back at them and I was thinking to myself, one, my haircut was fucking shocking. Alright, I'm not going to put a picture on or anything. I don't really do edits in this podcast, so you guys can go back and you can see, if you want to see, my haircut. And I used to do this, and I realised to myself, I did this through secondary school. I did this haircut for a majority of secondary school, where I used to, now I put my hair down, like sort of, sometimes I put it messy down, but sometimes like now I just sort of just put it down, because my hairline's not great by any stretch of the imagination. My hairline's awful, actually. So I kind of have to sort of have it like this, it makes my head look as normal as my head could look. But back in the day, I used to wear my hair up, because I always looked at cool hairstyles and it's up, and I never took into consideration my hairline, because I never cared what people thought back in the day. And that's the big thing that hit me the other day, because recently, this whole year, let me just give you a bit of context so you understand what I've been dealing with this year, how I've overcame it now, and maybe if you guys are going through the same thing, maybe you can take some advice from this, or if you're not going through it, but you might go through it in the future. I feel like this is something a lot of people will go through at some point, and if you don't, you're extremely lucky, but at the same time, I don't know, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to start off with the context. So, back in the day in secondary school, primary school, obviously, it goes without saying, I didn't really give a fuck what anyone thought. No one really cares about anything in primary school. But in secondary school, I maintained that somehow. I did not care what people thought. I had an amazing group of friends. I never got bullied. I never... I don't know how to put it. I think the big thing is, like, never getting bullied. I always had an amazing group of friends, and a lot of friends, that is. And I'm not trying to show off or anything, because 80% of those friends that I had in secondary school are gone now. So, you know, they didn't mean anything. But I'm just trying to give you guys some context, because I'm about to go into my sort of me dealing with anxiety and shit like that recently. So back in school, that was my situation. I was always happy, always just full of energy. And like I said, I had a great group of friends, so I never went into school, even if I had like 5 or 10 friends who were ill that day, which obviously never is going to happen, but let's say even like if 5 or 10 friends couldn't come in, I'd still have a good group of friends to sort of spend my day with, so I never worried about being alone. And all these little things really just help build my self-esteem and my confidence. And I'm really sorry, I'm gonna have to blow my nose because I was sneezing before this podcast. I was hoping it'd fuck off while I got into the podcast, but if you guys are gonna, I'll go out the camera so you don't have to see any of the nasty stuff. Right, yeah, that had to be done. My nose is playing up today. I don't know why. So where was I? What was I saying? Secondary school. I backed myself, yeah, that was it. So I backed myself. And this wasn't all of secondary school, by the way, guys. The first year and a half of secondary school, it was honestly just me, Gemmo, which is James, my mate James. But his YouTube name is Gemmo, so I thought I'd refer to him as that. So that's probably how you guys will know him. It was honestly just me and him, another mate, Lucas, from my primary school. And it was sort of me and my primary school mates sort of stayed as like a close group, which I think happens with a lot of people moving from primary to secondary school. And then I had one science class in year 9, which is secondary school for us in the UK. Starts at year 8, then it goes to year 9, to year 12. Well, no, to year 11, then it goes to sixth form, and then college, and then university, and then work, and then death. But we ain't gonna go there. Hopefully not. Anyway, this is what I mean about solo podcasting, man. It's not easy. I'm gonna chat shit a lot, guys, but you guys are gonna have to really bear with me. It's weird for me doing this, but I hope that I can make a good episode for you guys. So back to where I was. I backed myself in secondary school, is what I'm trying to say. I had a small group of friends at first, and then I went into a science class in year 9, like halfway through year 9, and the teacher, I wanted to sit with my primary school friends, and my teacher forced us into different groups, and no, that wasn't it. My primary school friends weren't in that science class, and the teacher told us to get into groups. So I was looking around, and I had one friend who I was sort of just making friends with at the time, and he was like, yo, come sit with us. And I was like, okay, yeah, why not? Go meet his friends. And these guys turned out to be my best friends, now anyway, which is crazy. So, for those of you, for the 1 or 2 of you that are listening who will know the names, I'm just going to say the names, but I'm not going to say the second names. But just, you know, it helps me. Some people want to do podcasts, and I think I used to do this. I used to say, like, fake names so that people couldn't find the identity, but then I was thinking, like, who the fuck cares? Like, I'm not incriminating them or anything. So my mate Eco came up to me and was like, yo, come sit with us. I was like, okay, no worries. And he was at a table with 3 other people. Jibbin is one of them, James and Christian. Now, James on that table is probably my best friend now and will be for a very long time. Obviously, I want to say for the rest of my life, but you never know what can happen. And so I went and sat on this table with these four different guys, and in that lesson, we became really good friends. Like, quite quickly. We sort of had a lot in common. Talking to them was easy, and they were like, yo, do you want to join our group? And this is where it gets a bit cringy, because their group was called NG, and it was and this is where it gets really cringy. So they had this group called NG, and it was I know it's cringe, okay? I don't need you guys thinking it's cringe, because I know it's cringe. Back in the day, it wasn't really cringe though. It was called Next Generation, and the idea was James was sort of like the leader of this group. He was the sort of the strongest guy, the alpha in the group, if that makes sense. Like, no one was a leader, but if everyone had to say who's, like, you know, the most prominent, I guess, in your group, if that's even the word to use, everyone would have said James at the time. His older brother, I believe this is the story. I believe this is how it goes. And I don't even know if this is true now thinking about it. But his older brother he was pretty hard. And back in his day at school, he had a group, and no one used to fuck with them at all. So James's idea was he wanted to start a group called NG, the next generation, because it's the generation after his brother. And we wanted to be that group where no one will fuck with us. And that's kind of how it started. So we didn't take it too seriously in that sense, honestly, guys. We didn't sit there like, right, how are we going to make sure that no one fucks with us like that? It wasn't like that at all. But that was just the sort of idea of the group. And we never really called it NG after that day. Like, once or twice we would joke about it, but it wasn't as serious as I just made it sound. But that was what he said, like, oh, should I join NG? That was just the name of the group, example. So I met them, I met all those guys, and that's how I made my friends in secondary school. So I was very lucky, honestly. And my life would be so different if it wasn't for that science class. And it's insane to think where I'd be now. I have no idea where I'd be now. I feel like my self-esteem now, I feel like my confidence and self-esteem and everything would just be at like low, because I've gone through some mental battles recently this past year, especially the beginning of this year, that I feel like if I didn't know that I'm not the kind of person who should be anxious or should be shy or any of that, then if I didn't know that, I don't know how I would have made it through. Not saying I would have killed myself. I'm not saying that. It wasn't that bad. But I think I would have still been in that sort of bubble that I found myself in the beginning of this year. So I met these friends. We got up with all kinds of shit, and it fucked my grades. I'm not gonna lie, because we never used to focus in lesson. I never used to focus in lesson anyway. Always used to get into arguments with teachers. Always used to think that I never respected authority back in the day, especially in secondary school, so all the teachers hated me. And fun fact, I was voted by all the teachers the worst student in the school, which was worst student in the year, sorry, in year 11 or 10, I think they did that, which was fucked up. But basically, the headmaster went around to all these different teachers, every single teacher that teaches in our year, and he made them write down the worst 3 students, worst in behaviour, not in grades, because my grades weren't that bad, they were just average. There were people with much worse grades than me. I got 5 GCSEs, in the end, I can tell you guys, I got a B in business, a B in religious studies, a C in maths, C in science, and a C in English, and then I got a D in geography, an E in history, an F in Spanish, and I think that's it. I'm pretty sure that's it. So yeah, not ashamed of it, don't really care, never really cared for grades or anything to do with education, like in that sense, academically. Not saying you shouldn't. If you can get good grades, or if you're not getting good grades, you should really work towards getting the good grades, because getting good grades is only going to help you. But I never really gave a fuck. Even still, I don't really care, man. Like, I could get a job, it's fine. There's so many jobs I could go into now. I've got friends who've got jobs who could get me a job. I've got, average enough GCSEs to get a job at Tesco's at least, you know what I mean? So I'm not really too worried. And also I've got YouTube as, I guess you could call, a source of income. But I know I can turn it into something big, hopefully one day. And I've just got all these passions, and I'm not worried about it, man. It's basically what I'm trying to say. I'm not like sat here with no money thinking to myself, I've got a bit of money, tiny bit of money, and I feel fine. So I don't care. I don't regret anything is what I'm trying to say. I don't look back at my score for like, fuck, man, I wish I got the grades. I'm so much happier that, and this is really bad advice, and this isn't good, don't take this advice and sort of integrate it into your school life, because trust me, you'll be better off. Then again, can I say that with a straight face? Even now, I'm glad I made the memories that I did in the sacrifice that I got. You can do both at the same time is what I'm trying to say. You can have fun with your mates, and you can get good grades. I just decided to fuck off the grades altogether, and just fuck about with my mates every day in school. So that's how I developed that sort of confidence and self-esteem, because I had a bunch of awesome friends around me and we were like, I guess you could say top of the food chain, if that's the way to put it, and that makes me cringe as well, just saying that. But no one in the school was ever going to fuck with us. No one anywhere near the school was really, I'm not saying we were hard, we weren't, but we had so many of us, and we were all like, just degenerates, basically. So we never really ran into any issues like that. We did later down the road, but that's a story for another day. So we were in this situation where all of us backed ourselves heavily, at least the people sort of like higher up in the group did. Then you had people sort of joining the group in the later years. It turned out being like 20, 30 of us, I think, something like that. And yeah, and then me and James became best friends. So me and James, out of everyone in the group, he was definitely my best friend, and I was his best friend, and we just used to do everything together. The amount, there's so many different stories I could go into, but I really want to stay on the point. I don't want to keep going off on tangents, because there's a really important point that I feel like I'm trying to make this podcast, that I need to make sure that I do make, and I don't want tangents to ruin that. Normally, I let tangents happen. I let myself go on tangents because they keep the conversation running, and you know, it keeps me talking and keeps the podcast active, basically. But for this podcast, there's a point that I really want to make, so I'm going to stick to it, and this is a tangent in itself, so I'm going to go back to where I was. So we all backed ourselves heavily. Went through school like this, and even... Alright, I'm not a good-looking guy. I'm very aware that I'm not good-looking, okay? I don't need some fucking expert to tell me this, you know? It's obvious. So, although I never used to rate myself, but for some reason, I had three girlfriends in secondary school. I guess for... Just for the argument's sake, let's just say 3. I mean, you could say 4, but one of them wasn't really a girlfriend, but it doesn't matter. I had 3 girlfriends in secondary school. All 3 of which were above my league, in my opinion. 1 is questionable, 1 maybe was in my league, but 1 was definitely above my league. Out of my league, sorry, above my league. My head was fucked. Like, definitely by a long shot. And I sat here and I was thinking the other day, like, why was I so much more... I haven't, for context again, I haven't had a girlfriend now in... My last girlfriend was in secondary school. I think it was year 11. So then I've gone through... So since then... listen to this. Since then, I've gone through a year of college. No, 2 years of college. 1 year of full-time work. A quarter of a year at uni. And there was another year, I think, I'm not too sure, a long time basically, without having a girlfriend. And it's not because I didn't want one. I just never really approached, like, I never really bothered. I sort of, in my head, I'm like, oh, it will come naturally. I don't have to go out searching for a girlfriend, because back in school, that is how it happened for me. I had a girl who was, like, completely out of my league, who was, like, crazy about me, and at the time, I guess I didn't think about it too much, but now I look back on it and I'm thinking to myself, why was that? And I was sat there, I was like, why is that back in the day? And I was uglier back in the day than I am now. That's the thing. I genuinely was. At least in my opinion. So I'm trying to figure out what it was. And then it all comes down to, and I realised the answer, and this is what's important. It all comes down to the ridiculous amount of confidence I had in secondary school and how high my self-esteem was. Like, that has to be the only thing it was, because when I look back on it, when I found out that she was crazy about me because all her friends came and told me, I was like, oh, really? Oh, that's cool. I'll go ask her out then. And then I hooked up with her at a party, and that was it. Then we just started going out for like a few weeks, and then I broke up with her because I thought I was the fucking shit, and then ever since then I never got another girlfriend. But I broke up with her thinking like, yeah, I could do better. It was, again, a story for another day. I was a dickhead, but I had a ridiculous amount of confidence, and that honestly was all that mattered. Even she must have known. I mean, I don't know if she did, but she must have known that she could have done so much better than me. But I used to sit next to her in English, and I was thinking, oh man, it annoys me now because I'm not the same person that I was, and that's the point that I'm trying to make. I'm thinking to myself, what's changed? Why is it that when I left school, all of a sudden... Not all of a sudden, when I joined college, I just got hit with, like, anxiety, man, like, social anxiety, and it's given me such a hard time over the past couple of years, such a fucking hard time, and I've never really realised why. I used to blame it on a bunch of things. I used to blame it on the weed that I smoked. I used to blame it on, I mean, that was a big thing that I used to blame it on, but I used to blame it on me letting myself slip, just like, I'll maybe put on a bit of weight, me not being around my friends. I used to blame it on my social status, because my social status went from, like, I talked about this in the last podcast, but my social status when I left school went from, like, the very top to sort of just the bottom, because what happens when you leave school, and I think this is why, you know, I think this is a big reason why I saw an article the other day on, I think it was This Morning, I saw an article the other day talking about suicide rates for young men in the UK, and how they've just, like, the highest they've ever been, and I shared it on Facebook, and I wrote, like, a mini sort of, like, paragraph explaining why I understand it now, and I really understand that now. I really, really, my heart breaks, honestly, when I see things like that, because, man, people leave school and they just get lost. When you're in school, you're in a bubble, and I'm pretty sure me and Matt spoke about this, either in the podcast or pre-podcast, but I'm just going to go over it quickly. When you're in school, you've got your bubble. It's your own little world, if that makes sense. And then you leave that world, and when you leave school, a lot of your friends you don't really see again. And I don't care how close you think you are with your friends. I was as close as you can get with your friends at secondary school. And then a lot of them, I want to say they're not my friends now. If I saw them, it'd be like, what's going on, man? But people get caught up with life, and unless you really care about, like, I made sure to stay in touch with at least like 3 or 4 of my really close friends from secondary school. But people just get on with their lives, man. School ends, people meet new people, some people meet better friends than you were to them, and that happens. But I had such good friends that I went through college not really needing to make friends. In college, I honestly made friends, because you need friends in college. You can't just be walking around on your wands in college all the time. And I made friends in college, and honestly, they're still my friends to this day. And if I saw them, like I said, I'd be buzzing to see them. They were fucking awesome guys, I swear. But I had incredible friends from secondary school that I still were my incredible friends, so I never really bothered. So I let my social status slip, knowing, because I still backed myself, okay? So I still was in that mindset of I am... And I think it's important for me to cover one thing, actually, before I carry on. I was also very religious, is another way to put it. And I was very religious. I never practiced really my religion, but I was born with... my dad and my dad's side of the family all installed this faith in me. I used to have... So, my dad and my dad's side of the family, they're all Muslim. And my mum's side of the family are Christian. But my mum's side of the family, they're Christian, but, they're not really Christian. They sort of, they don't really know what they believe in, but, they just say they're Christian. My dad's side of the family are Muslim. Like, they all believe in it, without a doubt. And I was brought up, obviously, when you're young, you don't really question things. So, I was brought up to believe that I am special. I always thought that. So when I was in a room with, let's say, 100 people, I always thought that I was definitely number one, and I used to think that I was, superior, I guess is the word. It makes me sound like such a dick, but I never used to show it. I was never special, thought that I was that special to the point where I used to go around, like, acting as if I'm the fucking... I never used to really do that, I swear to God. I was always nice to people. I was just a much better person all round than I am now. And I'm so glad that I had that experience, because when I left school, and I've talked about this a few times, when I joined college, and then slowly your social status drops, you realise, and then you start questioning your religion, which I'm still doing to this day. So that means that all that whole special thing about, how, God chose you and all that kind of stuff, I don't exactly buy it right now. I'm not saying I disbelieve it. I want to believe it. I so badly want to believe it, but I've really been questioning my religion a lot recently, and all these little things, all these factors, they all they hit your self-esteem, man. They really hit your self-esteem, and I went from thinking I'm the most amazing person in the world to just realising that I'm just another person in this world, and no one actually really cares about you, and I'm not special, man. Like, there's nothing special about me. I think now I literally realised this the other day, guys, I swear to God. I really came to this conclusion the other day, and I've been trying to figure out what was wrong for a couple of years. And it really hit me, and so the past couple years, I've been dealing with anxiety, social anxiety. It hit me one time, and I talked about it in the last podcast, so I'm not going to go over it again. You guys could go listen to the previous podcast with Matt if you want to hear this. It was either that or the podcast before, or even the one before. It was one of the first 3 we did. But I got hit with this weird thing, man, where I'd be in a social situation, and I'd lock eyes with somebody, I'd make eye contact with somebody, and my head would, all of a sudden, I'd go cold. My head would start shaking. It's like my mind just switched. That was a failed click. My mind just switched, fully switched. And all of a sudden, 99% of my focus and attention is going on to what I look like, what I'm doing, what my eyes are doing, how my arms are moving, what my body movement's like, how my voice sounds. All these fucking things. And I can't focus on, conversation. And conversation used to be second nature to me. So, and ever since then, it happened once in college, and then after that, I was just fucking... Every social situation was stressful. I used to go into any social... And when I say social situation, I literally mean having a conversation with my dad, or my mum, or a friend. anything like that was stressful. It took energy away from me, and I'd finish it and I'd be like, oh, glad that's over. You know what I mean? And that's not me. And I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky to know that there's a better version of myself that I'm still trying to find, and I feel like I'm closest that I've ever been right now. I don't think I would have been able to do a solo podcast a couple of months ago. I swear to God, I don't think I'd have the confidence to do it. Now I'm honestly, the first 5 minutes was difficult, but now I'm sitting here and like, I really don't care. Everything's easy, and I'm glad I'm doing it. I'm not being as direct to the point as I want to be, and I'm not telling this story as well as I want to, but I knew that was going to happen. I knew I was going to go off on a lot of tangents. I knew I was going to ramble a bit. You guys, like I said, you're going to have to bear with me on that. But yeah, and it hit me hard, and I now have realised, no, what was I saying? Not have realised, I was lucky enough, I am lucky enough to know that that's not me. And it made me think about all the people in secondary school who were in a worse position than I was a couple of months ago, or a couple of years ago. And they've always been like that. And they do not have the blessing of knowing that there's a better version of themselves out there that they could achieve. They think that's them. And I've really been thinking about this a lot recently, and it's broken my heart just thinking about it, man. All the people in second, and I never treated these guys badly. I'm on about the quiet ones in school, the ones who didn't really have any friends, sort of really spent a lot of their time alone, was very shy, you know, those kind of people. I never used to bully them or anything like that. Never. It's like, I was really nice to them, actually. There's one guy called Sam who people did used to bully, man. People like, not bully, no one really bullied in our school, that's the thing. No one, depends how you think of bullying. There were a lot of name calling and verbal bullying, I guess you could call it, but no one used to like, you know, a group of guys used to go up to some like poor kid and like beat him up. That never used to happen. There were people that came in from people that came in from outside the school used to come and do that. But that was like, because we lived in an area where there was like some gypsies around, and they used to come in with catapults sometimes and like fucking shoot rocks at people and shit. There's some people from up north who used to come down sometimes, and sort of, they had one of my mates and made him pay like £20 not to fucking hit him one time, which was just fucked. And they used to come down and just hit people and shit, and that was one thing. That wasn't really bullying, that was just some fucking dickheads who used to come in and just, you know, just cause shit for no reason. I'm on about bullying where, you know, how you see that sort of like stereotypical bullying of having someone in the corner and everyone's like name calling and like punching them. That never used to happen. Never used to happen. And especially me, I've always had a good heart, is what I'm trying to say. I've always had a good heart, and I'm blessed for that, and I'm so happy I have that, because I'm content with myself. I never used to make anyone feel less. I don't think I did anyway. I really hope I didn't, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. I was always overly nice to people who needed it the most, the quiet people, the people who, you know, didn't like social situations. I'd make sure I made the time to speak to them, make sure that I improved their day at somewhat. And there were people in my group, because I had a big friend group, so there were people in that group who were not like that and probably did bully a tiny bit. And the only thing I regret is not doing much about that. I probably should have stopped that, but I guess that's not on me, but it kind of is. You shouldn't be a bystander, and that is the one thing I do regret. But when it came to me and sort of the quieter people, the quieter kids, I was always as nice as I can be to them, because I know, even back then, I knew, I just had a good heart, and I didn't want to make anyone feel like shit. It just made me feel like shit to do that. And I look back at it now, and I've gone through a phase where I haven't been as bad as that, but I've been quiet, and I know what it's like to not want to see anyone, I used to miss days of college, because it was just way too tiring for me to go in and hold conversation with people and be in social situations. And I swear to God, I could tear up. I swear to God, I could tear up just talking about it now. Because I know exactly what it's like, man. And there's so many kids out there who go through it, and they don't know that there's a better, they can be better. And I've just got that blessing, and I'm so thankful for it, because it is what I've held on to get me out of it. And I'm so glad I'm out of it. But I'm thinking now, if I was like I am now in college, I would have had so much of a better time in college, man. I would have had so much of a better time. Definitely would have had a girlfriend in college, 100%. There were a few girls that I really liked in college, but I never mustered up the confidence to tell them or ask them out or anything. And oh my God. Anyway, it is what it is. I don't regret anything in life, because at the end of the day, it makes you who you are today. But I'm not welling up, but like it hits me just thinking about it, because I was lost, man, for a long time, and not a lot of people really know this. I don't really talk about it much. I have recently because I've been starting to get out of it, so I feel like me talking about it could offer some sort of advice, I guess, something for people to listen to. And I'm kind of speaking to the people now who have gone through what I've gone through, but have always gone through it. I have no idea what that's like, but I can only imagine, because like I said, when I was in my worst state, where I didn't want to see anyone, conversation, just talking to people was stressful, I hated it. When I was in that state, which was low, man, it was fucking low. And when I was there, the only thing that I had to hold on to was I knew that wasn't me. I knew that there was a better version of me out there somewhere, and I knew that I had to just work to obtain that, because I knew that back in secondary school, I was like everything I ever wanted to be when it came to confidence and personality and just how you portray yourself and everything, and making friends was easy. In college, it wasn't easy, man. It was kind of difficult because I didn't... The way I made friends in college, guys, I swear to God, the way I made friends with college is by saving someone from getting beaten up. And not saving, but that's how, like, I really sort of made friends, because college started off shit for me. I really didn't. I had like 1 or 2 friends from my secondary school, which I was very lucky to have, because if I didn't have that, I would have 100% been walking about on my own for a good amount of time in college. And then I met one of my mates, Brandon, in class, who's still a very good friend to me now. We're still really good friends. We don't really speak much, but we're still good friends. And there was one day where we were sitting there, and he was like pretty much my only friend in college at the time, and we were sitting there, and there was some kid who was like ill, and he made a joke about this kid, and this kid just started like fucking smacking him in the back of the head, like got him in a headlock, and I ended up dragging this guy away, getting him in like a headlock until he calmed down, and just restraining him. Then the teachers came in and broke it all up, and that was all sorted. And from that, I gave myself some self-respect, and I felt like I had to do that. So when that whole situation happened, I looked at it and I didn't think, oh, my friend's in trouble, I need to help him. I did, but what was more so was that if I fuck this... I didn't fuck him up, I didn't even hit him. But if I get this guy off my friend, if I help my friend, my status is going to go up. Because in secondary school, there was a lot of pride. And I sort of tried to carry that into college, but then you realise that the world doesn't really work like that. In secondary school, you couldn't let people fuck with you, because if you did... Pride was so important. So if, for example, when my friend spent £20, gave that other guy £20 not to beat him up that time, he went down in everybody's books. Like, we all looked at him like... Because his pride obviously dropped. That is a huge hit to your pride to have to do that. So pride was important. So, you know, people would get into fights, and they'd make sure to document it to their friends exactly how it happened, and make sure to know that, no, I backed myself, I stood up for myself, you know, I threw punch, you know, I fucking hit people, I made sure to, I didn't just run, you know, I was throwing punches and shit, little things like that. And then that would sort of up your social status. That's what I mean. It was very pride orientated back in secondary school. Not as much as it is in, I'm sure, a lot of other places. Like, you look at places like London, where pride is everything for the youth, and people will stab people for pride. And that was never the case. Where I live in fucking Poole, but at the end of the day, Poole/Bournemouth. So it was never that bad, but pride was definitely a big factor in what your social status was. That's why James would have been regarded as the alpha in secondary school, because there was no one in the school who could have beat him up. He would have fucked everybody up. There was, when people did come down, there was a year above, actually, who were obviously a year older than us, and they were a bunch of fucking just knobheads. They were just dicks, and they used to pick on the smaller guys in our group, and James would always, like, back them up. He would always scare them off, or grab them, or even hit them in some situations. That is why he was regarded as the best. So you can see where I'm going with this. The more of that you did, the higher you were, the more pride. And there were a few exceptions. There were a few people where, you know, pride didn't really matter. They were just an awesome person. We love being around them, and that's what it is. And I feel like I was that kind of person as well, because I never really got myself into that much trouble. That is biggest bullshit. When I say trouble, I mean fights, like actual fights. There were a few, but not to the point where my whole social status backed myself on pride. My social status was honestly just because I was such good friends with, naturally such good friends with the person who was regarded the alpha in our group. That's honestly how my social status went so high. it's almost like a Bronx Tale in a sense, and I've seen this film, A Bronx Tale. If you haven't seen it, C, the main character, his social status went up so much because he became like best friends with Sonny, who was a mob boss. And this is that's a very much exaggerated version of what I'm trying to say, but I'm trying to get you guys to understand where I'm coming from with this whole conversation. So, pride was important. So when I went into college, and when I did that for my friend, when I, helped him in that situation, maybe no one looked at me differently, and they probably didn't, honestly, but I looked at myself differently. That helped me. So when I did that, I thought to myself, right, I've shown these people that I'm not to fuck with, so now I can back myself more, and it gave me confidence. So then I became friends with some more people, and I made a little group in college, and I honestly stuck with that group throughout college, and, I struggled to really get in that group. I don't think any of them really realised, but I really tried to sort of work my way into that group. I really did, and it's sad looking back on it, because I never really should have had to do that. And if I was the same person that I was in secondary school, fuck man, I would have just naturally had friends. I would have just had friends without having to do any of this stupid, superficial shit. You know what I mean? It's yeah, so I did that in college, and that's how I sort of made my friends in college. And then I left college, and I went to university, and university was a whole other ball game. University, I was really trying to find myself. I was really anxious. I was really lost. But then obviously you're living with 9 other people your age, so confidence sort of just comes naturally, because you're always around people. So I had that. But then when I went through a couple of days where maybe I didn't, see many of them or anything like that, my confidence would drop. So it wasn't there. It was just there when I've just been around people for a long time, because you just get used to it. But it wasn't the confidence that I had. And I still, to this day, I'm the most confident now that I've been in years, definitely. And I only managed to get myself in this position because when I was at my lowest, I knew that there was light at the end of the tunnel, because I've been there previously in my life. I've been... again, I'm sorry guys that I'm all over the place trying to fucking make this point, and it's annoying, and I kind of want to start this podcast again because I really wanted to make this clear, but I feel like this is a lot more sort of natural. This is my natural response to me telling the story. If I started the podcast again and tried to tell it, I feel like it would come off a bit just not as good. This is from the heart. This is really from the heart. I almost fucking teared up earlier, I swear to God. So where was I? So with uni, yeah. Uni was tough for me, and it wasn't tough. I made some really good friends in university, but like I said, it was tough making those friends because I was shy, man. I was not confident in myself, and it took me a long time to really start showing some confidence. And then it came back to pride, man. There were situations where sorry, I got like there were situations where I had to rely on my pride again to give me confidence. I'm not going to go into those stories either, because again, that's probably a story for another day, and I don't want to go off on another tangent. But there were similar situations in college, but a lot worse in uni, where I had to rely on my pride to give me the confidence to sort of actually, have some sort of social status within these friend groups. And I struggled to make friends in uni as well. Really, I struggled. When I say friends, I think of the friends I had in secondary school. I had associates friends in university and everything, but, for example, I've left university now, and I don't miss anyone in that sense. Like, I'm going to go back and see them soon, and I miss them in that sense, but it's not like, they're like my good friends and I need to go see them. It's not like that. I've got my friends, man. I don't need any more friends. I don't really care about that. And this isn't about making friends for me. This is just about me being able to be in social situations and feel confident and feel like the person I used to be. And like I said, man, my heart goes out to all the people who don't know what it's like to be confident, who from the very get-go of their life have been shy and quiet, and to them it's normal. To them, they don't know any better, and it's sad because there is so much better. There is so much better. Anyone could be, like, and it sounds so corny, man, but you could honestly be anything you want to be. Like, even with confidence, if you're the most least confident person in the world, man, you can be the most confident person in the world. You just need to sit, think about yourself, and you need to really, what helps me was watching a lot of videos on this, a lot of videos on YouTube videos about confidence, about self-esteem, about how to back yourself, how to not care what others think. That's the huge one. That's the biggest thing, honestly, not caring what other people think, because I did a lot of things that people probably thought were, you know, oh, like, what a dick, or, oh, he's just a fucking idiot. All the little things. And I never used to care at all. Like, in the slightest. And now I do care. And my main objective now, and a very successful businessman called Gary what's his name? Gary, I'm going to guess it's like Vaynerchuk. I'm going to guess. Probably completely fucked that up. But he says, like, he's a very successful guy. And he's a very confident guy, and he really doesn't care what people think, but he says that his main goal in life, really, is to get to a state where he really doesn't care what people think, because in my opinion, that's the most important thing. And he says, when you get to that point where you just don't give a fuck what anyone thinks, when you get to that point, you know, the sky's the limit, man. Even that's not the limit. There's no limit. You know, people's opinions won't affect what you do. You know, back in the day, man, I used to fucking, like, rap. I used to upload, like, I was so bad at rapping, man, but I used to still upload me, like, rapping, and the amount of people were like, nah, you're shit, man. I just didn't give a fuck. I used to still upload me rapping and doing all that shit. Then I did Kazelius, and I started, that's a channel you guys can go check out, actually, if you want. It's kind of cringy looking back on it now, but like I said, even still, like, I'm thinking, oh, it's cringy. Back in the day, I wouldn't have cared, which you can definitely tell if you go back and watch some of those videos. Didn't give a fuck. It's like, at one point, I made a video about, like, me losing weight. I was a fat cunt. I just straight up got my t-shirt off and fucking got on the scale for, like, the fucking world to see. I didn't care, man. That's still while I was at school, I'm pretty sure, as well, actually. I think I just left at that point, but I'm still in college. I just didn't care, man. And I think my main goal right now, the main thing I'm working on, is just not caring at all what people think. And I don't really care now too much, but I still care a bit. And I want to get to the point where I really just don't even think about it, and I can just be myself. And it's going to be difficult to get there. I don't even know if it's possible to get there, but I'm very content with where I am now. And I know this whole podcast has been based on anxiety and social anxiety, and I really, again, want to put emphasis on how shit of a job I've done at explaining this. And I honestly think I'll listen to this podcast through before I upload it, just to make sure that it's not a complete fucking mess, because it feels like a mess, but I hope there's something you guys can get from this. Yeah, man. And the main point of this, like I said, the point that I was trying to make is, no matter who you are, or what your background is, or what situations you've been through, or anything like that, no matter who you are, there's a better version of yourself for, like, waiting to be found, man. And it's so true. And going back to those suicide statistics that I read on that news article, it broke my heart, man, because I've been there, and I've been to a point where I feel like if I didn't have the friends that I have, and if I didn't have the family that I have, I think suicide would have been, I don't think I would have done it, but it would have been, I would have considered it, I feel. Again, saying that, it's hard to say, and I try not to, it's a very sensitive topic, and I'm not saying that, I've never been in a position where I've wanted to kill myself, okay? I've never been that depressed that I'm like, fuck, man, I'm about to end it. It's never been that bad. I want to make that very, very clear, because that's very important. It's never been that bad. But that's because I have the friends that I have and the family that I have. My family is incredible, man. Like, I couldn't ask for a better family. We're all so close, and even if all my friends left, I would still be happy, because my family are my best friends, like, anyway, if that makes sense. Me and my mum's relationship is just ridiculous now. Like, we have an amazing relationship. Me and my dad have an amazing relationship as well. My uncles are like my brothers, and my cousins are like my brothers and sisters. I swear to God, it's my family is honestly incredible, and I'm so grateful for that, because that has honestly helped me be the person I am today. And there's another thing I want to go over. My whole dad's side of the family are ridiculously confident. Like, as confident as you could get. My dad is the most confident person I've ever met in my entire life. So that's why, again, I was questioning myself. I'm like, why am I fucking struggling with this? And I think to it, my dad, for a bit of context, he grew up in a war zone. He grew up in Lebanon, back when they were at war. And he had a fucking interesting childhood, man. Like, interesting in a bad way. Like, he's seen people die, he's seen dead bodies. It was normal to him, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So he never had all his problems were external. He never had internal sort of battle with himself. I mean, I should not say that because I have no idea. But what I'm trying to say is, because I've had such little external issues in my life, because obviously I've grew up in a fucking, in Western society in in the year 2000s. That's definitely not the best way to put it, but you know what I'm saying. Where there's really not many problems for us. You know, we're not at war with anyone. I'm in the UK. You know, the only problems you really have, and that's why I feel like so many people are depressed and have all these mental issues, because we've grown up without any real problems, if that makes sense. And oh, my cousin's calling, so I have to call it back afterwards. And instead we've grew up with social media, and all our problems are now just no one has self-esteem, man. Everyone really struggles to like back themselves and have a good amount of self-esteem and confidence, etc. And it's sad, man, and it really, and it's hard to talk about because it makes it sound like I'm saying we have it harder than my dad did in the war, because it's not like that. It's not what I'm trying to say. The point I'm trying to get to is there's a reason suicide statistics are as high as they are now. We've grown up with social media just dominating our life. We don't know how to really form proper relationships. I watched a speech the other day, which I shared on Twitter, which I highly recommend you guys go watch. 16 minutes. Can't remember the guy's name who did the speech, but incredible speech, best thing I've ever seen in my life, really. And he was talking about how, like, why people are like they are today, why, you know, you have so many mental problems, and, you know, mental illnesses are through the fucking roof, man. They're through the roof, and that's because everyone's judging each other. Everyone's basing their self-esteem and their confidence and their self-worth on how many likes they get on Instagram, and you may not think you do, but you do, man. Even me, I'm guilty of it. So if I'm guilty of it, and I back myself as much as I do now, and I feel like I'm 80% back to the confidence I had in secondary school, if I do that, I still, if I can admit to it, you know, don't bullshit yourself, man. A lot of people be like, no, I don't give a fuck. You do, man. If you're uploading a picture and, you know, you're going through, you're looking at the likes, and, you know, either there's certain people who've liked it, or there's a certain amount of likes, it gives you like a sort of dopamine rush. It gives you a sense of happiness, a sense of self-worth, if that makes sense. When things are happening, I'm just straight up admitting to all of this shit. When things are happening in my life that I think are like, oh, that'd be cool to put on Snapchat. Like, Snapchat's a big one. I'll post it on Snapchat and I'll look at who's viewed it. I'll look at how many people have viewed it. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, so that's cool. You know, it makes me feel, you know, yeah, people, you know, they're interested in me. People, it's all good. And I feel like if my views and all that on Instagram, and fuck me, I'm getting messages from everyone right now. I feel like if I all of a sudden I got like no likes on Instagram and all that kind of stuff, not that my self-worth would go down, but I'll definitely it would definitely hit my confidence, you know what I mean? So I'm the first to admit to it. I'm not perfect, man, and honestly neither are you. And I feel like I don't know what you, like, obviously I don't know who I'm talking to right now. I don't know what kind of position you're in. Maybe you are the most confident person ever, and if you are, just maintain it. Don't let things bring you down, because you don't want to experience what it's like to just hate yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, like, I'm glad I've been through it, because I'm so grateful now for how I am today. I'm so grateful that I can now go with dinner with some mates. I can go, you know, do things with friends, or meet people and meet new people, and know that I'm going to be confident and I'm not going to have any trouble at all, or any anxiety at all. That's a blessing for me now. I do not take it for granted at all, and I'm very sure it might come back one day. It probably will come back one day. Like, it is what it is, but right now I'm very content with my life. This is honestly the past week, guys. I'm on about a week ago. I was like this, like in this fucking, my head was gone, man. I can't even go into describing it too much, because I don't know who's listening, and there's some things that I just can't say, but I was in a fucking just dark place, man, and I'm so glad that I'm finally out of it, and getting a big part of me, and this is what breaks my heart, is a big part of me getting out of it was knowing that that's not me, and I've said this a million times, but it's so fucking important. And I just know there's so many and that's why suicide was never an option and all that kind of stuff. I never even considered suicide because, you know, at the end of the day, I've got my friends and family to, like, you know what I mean? There's people who don't have friends and family, for example. There's people who maybe do have friends and family, but they've always been depressed and low, and they don't know what it's like to not be depressed and low. So they think they define themselves as that. And that's a big issue as well, how you define yourself. That's the fucking big... I'm glad I've left it till now to say that, because if I said that mid-podcast, I wouldn't have known how to go further. But that's the biggest part of it all, I think, is how you define yourself. You got to be very careful of how you define yourself. I was very close to defining myself as an insomniac a couple of days ago. I went through about a month or two getting no sleep, man. I don't mean no sleep as in zero sleep. I was just getting a few hours here and there, but holy shit, man. My sleep was awful. Awful. Worse than it's ever been. And I was so close to defining myself as an insomniac. I was looking at sleeping pills, melatonin, etc. And I was like, fuck, man, I'm about to get on myself on this stuff because obviously I'm an insomniac. But I just persevered, and now I'm sleeping incredibly well. Better than I ever have. And had I not held on, had I not persevered and started taking medicine and, you know, label myself as an insomniac as if the reason that I'm not sleeping is not due to what I'm doing or how I am, but due to my brain just being the way it is, which a lot of people I think self-diagnose themselves like that, which is fucking bad, man. Like, you're really fucking yourself over, because the moment you self-diagnose yourself with anything like that, whether it's depression, anxiety, insomnia, anything like that, the moment you tell yourself, okay, that's just me, you're fucked. You're fucked. And I cannot put enough emphasis on that. I really cannot put enough emphasis on that. The moment you do that, you've just given yourself a world full of trouble, man. You need to hold on, and you need to really, and this is another big problem. This is why this is such a sensitive topic, because there are people who are like that. But diagnose yourself, make it the very last. And I can't, you know, control your life. You know, if you're going to diagnose yourself, you're going to diagnose yourself. At the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference to me. You know what I mean? I'm just really trying to, I really hope this podcast helps at least one person, man, because that would have made it worth it. You know what I mean? You know that saying, if it helps one person, this whole thing was worth it. Something like that. I've been through this, and I'm going to say it again. The only reason I was able to get myself out of it was because of my past and knowing that there's a better version of me to obtain. And I know there's a lot of you listening. There's got to be at least one of you listening who has always been quiet and always been shy, and I'm talking to you now, so you better fucking listen up. I'm talking exactly to you, that person who is shy and has always been, you know, shy. I don't know, I keep saying shy. There's more words, man. You know what I'm trying to say? Anxious. You know, sort of just low, not being able to express themselves how they want to. I know this. I know there's one person listening to this that's like that, and to that person, I just want to say, that's not you. Okay, don't think that's you. Don't look at yourself and think to myself. Don't look at yourself and think to yourself, that's me. It's just the way it is. You know, life's unfair. It is what it is. You can be so much better, man. You could be so much fucking better. So much better. You don't even understand, man. And you won't be the same person you are now when you improve. That's another big thing. That's another big thing. You could, when you guys, what people don't understand is, let's say there's a depressed, anxious person, yeah, who's always been like that. I know exactly how they'll be thinking, because they'll be thinking to themselves, okay, yeah, I can work on myself and that. But no matter how much I work on myself, I'm always going to have this same sort of mindset, this same sort of perspective on the world. You won't. Everything will change when you really, and I mean really, start working on yourself. Watch videos, read books, talk to people, get a therapist if you need to. I was that close to getting a therapist, man. I was so close to getting a therapist the other day. I swear to God, I was talking to my mum about it. She was telling me how she had a therapist when she was younger, and I was so fucking close to getting a therapist, because I needed that, man. Luckily, I didn't need it in the end, but a lot of people will need it. Like I said, I'm lucky, because I'm so lucky, and it is luck. It is so luck, because that science class changed my life, believe it or not, man. And who knows what would have happened? Maybe I would have met them later on down the road. It's a good chance I would have, but yeah, man. I don't really know what to say. I hope this helps someone. I haven't spoke as clearly as I wanted to at all. But I really wanted to keep this podcast down to one topic in particular, and that was just trying to make the people listening to this aware that there's a much better version of yourself to obtain. And the reason I don't say you can better yourself, the reason I say there's a much better version of yourself to obtain rather than, you can better yourself, is because I don't really believe in bettering yourself. I mean, obviously that's a thing, but I think it's better to use the term a new self, if that makes sense, because I am hands down a different person than I was a month ago, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, a week ago even, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to, a month ago, let's just say for argument's sake. I was a different person, man. A different person completely. I am 100% different. You guys don't see it. I mean, maybe you do. I don't know, but you probably don't. You probably don't really see that much of a difference because I was good at putting on like an act almost. I was sitting in front of this cameraman recording these videos, struggling to make eye contact with the camera at one point, not feeling. I was stressing. It was tiring. Now I sit in front of the camera. It's completely natural. I don't give a fuck, man. The podcast is tiring. Obviously, I'm tired because I've been talking for an hour. But, yeah. So, I just want to make that very clear. I'm going to finish the podcast now, but I just want to make it very clear for anyone who's listening. And again, for the last time, I'm so sorry that this is such a mess. I just hope that, even throughout all the fucking mess and rambling of this podcast, that someone could take something from it. Everyone that's listening, there's better. There's just better. There's a better you, and it's not going to be you. That's the thing. It's not going to be you. When you obtain it, you'll realize that. And there's people who listen to this who have gone through the same thing that I've gone through, and they're listening, and they're going to be like, he's speaking the truth. That's exactly right. It's not going to be you. And there's a video that I'm going to find very quickly. Actually, the guy says the same thing about losing weight, and it's here we go. Let me find. This is important just for while we finish this. His name is, I know his first channel, Bricks Fitness, I'm guessing. Yeah, Bricks Fitness is his first channel. The guy's got a second channel, Exposed Bricks. Here we go. And I need to find the video. It is... Fuck, man, I shouldn't have done this because I really want to find it. Okay, so, guys. Exposed Bricks is the channel, XPOSEDBRIX. Exposed Bricks. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 18, and 5. Okay, he's got 23 videos on his channel, and it's one of, I'm not going to go through look at them now because it's going to be a waste of everyone's time. It's either, and just, I really suggest you guys look at, even if you're not fat, it's important what he says, because he talks about losing weight. It was either the video going from fat and broke to fit and woke. That's one of the possibilities. Or it's 3 important decisions for a great life. That's another one. And then the other one, it possibly could be 100k in bottle service fat brick story. It's one of those 3 videos. He says something very important, which was resonated with me heavily. He was saying, because I'm trying to lose weight, obviously. He was saying, when you're trying to lose weight, when you're fat, when you're, like me, for example, or even fatter, doesn't matter, just being fat in general, you're in this sort of mindset. And then when you lose weight, when you get fit, you're going to be a different person to where you are when you're fat. So what's so hard for fat people to get a grasp of, to get them to start losing weight, is they think it's always going to be this hard. That's not the case at all. I'm relating this to anxiety and depression, etc. It's not always going to be that hard. And it's going to become easy. For example, I probably find it, I find it easier to be in a social situation now than I do to sort of like be on my own now, if that makes sense. In a social situation, I get so much from it now, whereas back in the day, I got nothing but tiredness and stress and anxiety from it, and being on my own was by far the best solution, if that makes sense. Your mindset changes. The brain is way more complicated than a lot of you think. And I'm no expert. I don't know fuck all about the brain, but I know what I've been through, and I know that I can tell you guys this with utmost confidence that I'm telling the truth. This is straight facts, guys. Whether you believe me or not, that's up to you. If you want to be cynical about it, then that's your loss. I swear to God, that's your loss. And if you've really self-diagnosed yourself to the point where you feel like there's no escape, what can I do, man? What can I do? I can only do so much. I'm just trying to help the people who are in a similar position to where I was. I'm just trying to show people that there's a much better version of yourself that you can obtain, and I really hope you guys can do it. If you guys can leave your thoughts in the comments down below, then that'd be greatly appreciated. I'm sorry this is such a mess. I just wanted to sit and talk, and I could, like I said, I could record this again, and it'd be a lot more clarity to what I'm trying to say, but it won't be from the heart. I really spoke from the heart this episode, and I really hope that came across. And yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Now I'm going to fucking look at the recording and find out that nothing was recording, so okay, good. Everything's good, thank God. Alright guys, I'm going to end the podcast there. Please let's start a discussion in the comments, guys. I'm going to be in the comments a lot, because this is very important to me. So I'm going to be in the comments a lot, seeing what you guys are saying, and yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you learned something from this. Again, I'm sorry for the lack of clarity, but I'm a fucking rambler. Thank you guys for watching. There'll be a video on my main channel later on today, guys, so if you, okay, that was something outside my house. I'm going to take this moment to plug my channel now, Kazelux. It'll be in the link in the description. Matt's channel will also be in the description. Matt does Fortnite videos. I do Rocket League videos, but I do sort of like Rocket League and sort of like entertainment, sort of comedy and whatever the fuck you want to call it. If you guys want to go check out that channel, the link will be in the description. Without further ado, thank you guys so much for watching again, and I need to keep emphasizing this, sorry for the clarity, but hope you learned something from it. I hope I'm gonna listen to this again. I'm gonna be like, fuck man, you really messed up, but oh well. Thank you guys for watching. Catch you in the next podcast. Peace.